Would you be able to win this endgame as white? Unless you've already learned it before. Many people will have trouble winning this queen versus pawn on the 7th rank type of situation. Let me show you how it's done. To understand how to win this endgame, we need to see the logic and the ideas that the side with the queen should have, which is the one we're learning today. So we can't make progress unless we can get our king closer, which means we have to make sure that the king gets in front of their own pawn, which, for example, in this situation, if the king was here and it was our turn, we would get a free tempi and be able to move our king forward and come and invade. Now, to do that, we're going to have to be giving a series of checks, and basically, afterwards, once the king is here, we bring our king up one square forward, and then after the king steps out, we just repeat the process over and over again, and that's how you win this position. Now, let's see the real technique of how to win this, move by move. Our idea is to get the king to d1, so we're going to play queen c4 check. So now black has these options. King d1 would be bad, because they're just stepping in front of their own pawn, and we can just bring our king. So the critical tries would be king b2 and king b1, though there's not much of a difference in both. So, for example, king b1, now they're threatening d1. We can try to do this, forking the king and the pawn, but luckily for them, the king can protect. However, queen c3, and now we're still hitting both, so the king is forced to step to d1 to defend. As you can see, now the king is blocking its own pawn, and we get a free tempi so that we can move our king forward. Now, all we have to do is repeat the process on the other side. And now the king is forced in front of its pawn again. Our king steps forward once again, and we just repeat, grinding them out. Now we bring our king even closer. And now we get the free tempi. After king here. Our king has slowly but surely made its way from h8 all the way to e3. And now, after king e1, we'll be able to deliver checkmate on f2. So that's the way to win this endgame with the pawn on d2. Now, there are exceptions where this pawn on d2 with the king close by is a draw for the side with the pawn. Namely, white wins when the pawn is on b2, d2, e2, or g2. So on knight pawns and central pawns, white is going to be able to win. However, there are scenarios where on the a pawn, c pawn, f pawn, and h pawn, it's going to be a draw because of stalemating tricks and different ideas. Here you can see that black has a c pawn, or we can call it a bishop pawn. So they have this position actually is completely drawn, unlike the position we saw earlier with the central pawn. Why is it different? Well, let's see. White's going to proceed to do his normal moves, getting closer and closer. Now they're going to be able to force us. And now after the same technique that we saw earlier, checking like this and forcing the king in front of his pawn. Of course, if the king goes in front, the king can come up. Of course, that position is still a draw, but black doesn't need to waste any more time. After queen b3 check, we have this very nice idea, king a1. Now, we're threatening to promote, and we're not in front of it, so white doesn't get that free tempi. Now, wait, what if the queen takes? Well, that's just a draw because of stalemate. So this clever resource can save you many games if you know this is black, and try to avoid it if you're the one with the queen. That's why bishop pawns on the 7th rank against queen are usually drawn. Now, let's see what happens when there's an A pawn or an H pawn, or we can call them the rook pawns. Here, as we can see, we have a rook pawn on the 7th and the queen is there. Now, it's white to move, so they'll be following the same plan, right? Checking with the queen on b3, and now we're gonna go here. Wow, it looks like our king has stepped in front of its pawn. Now white gets a free tempi, doesn't he? If he move, okay, then let's move our king here. Oh, it's a draw. Again, there's a stalemate problem here for white, since there's no file on the left side here. So that means the king on a1 and the pawn on a2 create a stalemate. Now, there's no other way white can make progress, because these checks, black is just going to slide back and forth here. And now, see, white can never move his king because we're always threatening to promote the pawn. So that's why you should remember that only when you have a central pawn, or a knight pawn, you can win this when you have the queen. When your opponent has a central pawn or knight pawn, I should say, you can win this when you're the side with the queen. But if they have a bishop pawn or a rook pawn, that's going to be a draw. So I hope you can remember this endgame and how it works. Please note that we're only looking at it when the king is vacationing on the other side of the board. When it's closer, things can get a little more complex, but that's all I have for you today. Thank you.